Air roll is one of the most important mechanics in all of competitive Rocket League. It unlocks all the other advanced mechanics, and it's the foundation of true aerial car control. But here's the thing, most air roll tutorials get this completely wrong. They'll tell you it's just a feel thing, or just practice 100 hours in free play. That is terrible advice that keeps players like you stuck. If you've ever tried to learn air roll for yourself, you know the struggle. I spent over 1,000 hours in training and rings not knowing there are actually 4 keys that unlock 80% of air roll mastery. I had to learn this the hard way, but once you learn it, it will be like a light bulb turning on in your brain. This is the new method that will take you from clumsy tumbling in the air to smooth, buttery car control faster than you ever thought. And the reason I can guarantee this will help you is because I run the #1 coaching service in Rocket League. By the way, it's called thegrandchampbootcamp.com. And today I've brought in my team of pros to break down exactly how this mechanic actually works. This is my ultimate air roll guide that covers everything from air roll history to air roll mastery. Let's get into it. And real quick, before we dive in, if you want to learn air roll even faster, I made a custom air roll cheat sheet just for this video. It's got all the best information from this video and more. So if you want to skip the wait, I just posted it in my free community below. Totally optional, but it'll help you learn even more. Click the first link below to get started, and let's get into it. Here is the cold truth about air roll tutorials. Most of them either A, overcomplicate things to try to sound smart, or B, they BS you like a high school or college group presentation. They'll basically do 15 minutes of yapping in a circle with some vaguely related air roll footage, and then say, go grind rings for 100 hours and feel it out. That's lazy advice that doesn't help players who are actually trying to learn like you. So let me show you how to actually understand air roll with my 8 corners method. This will change everything about how you learn air roll. None of this, it's just a feel thing BS. If you imagine there are 8 directions you can push your joystick, up, up, right, down, down left, left, and up left, you can map each air roll movement to a specific direction on your joystick. Then you'll be able to see exactly how each joystick input translates to a different air roll animation. Let's pick air roll left first. We'll start flying with our car perfectly faced forward, nose pointed directly up to the sky, what I would call the perfect flying position. Let's test each air roll animation closely. Holding air roll left and pushing our joystick vertically, or straight up to 12 o'clock on the clock, what happens? Let's pause halfway through the spin to find out. If you freeze here, you'll see our car ends up flying at the right wall. Okay, let's reset. Now, holding air roll left and pushing our joystick diagonal up and to the right, aka in between 1 and 2 on the clock for half a spin. What happens? Our car ends up flying at the back right corner. Okay, reset. Pushing our joystick horizontally to the right, now to 3 o'clock. What happens? Our car flies at the back wall. Okay, one more reset. Pushing our joystick diagonally and back right to 4 or 5 o'clock on the clock. What happens? Our car flies at the back left corner. Do you notice a pattern? If we start an air roll left adjustment from this normal flying position, our car always goes 90 degrees clockwise from the direction we push our joystick. This holds true all the way around the clock. Push joystick down and to the right, the car goes to the back left. Push the joystick to the left, the car goes straight forward. Push the joystick diagonal up and left, the car goes up and right. While holding air roll left, your car always goes 90 degrees clockwise from the direction you push your joystick. Don't believe me? Let's test air roll right. This time, if we press and hold air roll right from the perfect flying position and we push our joystick up to 12 o'clock, watch what happens. Our car turns left. Okay, reset. Now let's push diagonally up and left on the joystick while holding air roll right. What happens? You see, we go back left. Okay, just one more example so I can prove that this works. If we hold air roll right and push left on our joystick, think of this as pushing to 9 o'clock. Guess what happens? Our car goes straight back. So if you haven't guessed it yet, while holding air roll right, your car always goes 90 degrees counterclockwise from the direction you push your joystick. This holds true when starting from perfect flying. This isn't just a cool property. I'm gonna help you use this to learn air roll faster. The 8 corners method I just showed you is just one discovery I've made in the last 2 months I've spent investigating this mechanic. In fact, for the last 60 days, I've been researching the furthest corners of Reddit, collaborating with some of Rocket League's best visual designers, and meeting with pros to bring you this guide. I even had a multiple hour-long conversation with ChatGPT to perfectly understand tornado spin. In other words, what I'm about to show you is the air roll system that I've refined, not just from my personal gameplay experience, but through tens of hours of research and study, combined with in-the-field practice coaching alongside my team of pros. But air roll is not easy, so don't take it from me. Take it from a player like Chaotic here. He's a member in our grandchampbootcamp.com private community, and this method is the first time he's understood air roll in 7 years. So if you're interested, let's continue. To simplify, there are 8 key movements we'll cover in this video. Technically, there are 16 adjustments if you include 8 for air roll left and 8 for air roll right, but here's the thing. There are really just 3 of these 8 adjustments that give you 80% of the results. That's why I've broken this down into a 5-step system. Step 0 for setup, step 1 for understanding what I call the reference points, and then steps 2, 3, and 4 for the 3 most important adjustments that actually matter in ranked play. What I'm about to show you is the system I've refined through thousands of hours of coaching. This is the exact method that has helped students at my company, thegrandchampbootcamp.com, master air roll in 12 weeks, not 12 months. Now, here's the thing most tutorials miss. Understanding the theory is one thing, but having visual references is what's gonna cut your learning time in half. I've partnered with elite Rocket League visual designers to create something you won't find anywhere else. This is a complete air roll mastery cheat sheet, and I'm giving it to you completely free. This will be your best friend while you watch this video, because it isn't just some basic PDF. Not only does it include the 8 corners method with all 16 different adjustments for air roll left and air roll right, but I've had our editors create custom Cinema 4D mock-ups of both aerial and grounded views so you can actually see what's happening in game. You don't want to know how difficult this was to do. If you don't believe me, pull it up right now. I'll have the cheat sheet, first link below, or scan the QR code somewhere on screen right now, and you can join my Discord and pull it up. I'm also going to be updating this document with workshop map codes, custom training sequences, and progression drills organized by difficulty, and I'll be recording video walkthroughs for you guys after this tutorial goes live. Just drop a comment with what video tutorials you want the most, and whatever gets the most upvotes, I will go make and post videos on my second channel. Now, let's get back to understanding the fundamentals. For intermediate and advanced players that already have your bind set up, you can skip ahead to the timestamp on screen. That'll take you straight to step 1. However, for 90% of you watching, I recommend you pay attention closely and don't skip. Class is in session, and if you fall asleep and wake up 30 minutes in, the whiteboard is gonna look like chicken scratch. But jokes aside, I'll try to keep this to the necessary math, because I don't like math as much as anybody else. Okay, step 0, the basics of air roll. Before we get into the practical steps, we need to address the most fundamental question in all of aerial car control. Regular air roll versus directional air roll, AKA air roll left or air roll right. I want to go back to the start of your question. What is the difference between air roll left and air roll right? Why does it feel smoother than joystick air roll?
It was like a big kind of revolution almost, I think, for a lot of people. But a big thing, to me at least mechanically, that makes me think it's better. The fact that, so when you're air rolling normally, you can't steer in the air, right? Because you're pushing your stick in a direction to air roll. But when you're using directional, you can also steer in the air, and again, it gives you those different type of adjustments, and it kind of gives you that tornado spin kind of movement as well, which is good for, again, getting under the ball or just keeping the ball on your car. I think it's just better.
This single choice will determine your entire mechanical ceiling in Rocket League. Let me be crystal clear about something. If you're still using only standard air roll in 2025, you're playing a completely different game than everyone else at the top ranks. The mechanical ceiling with standard air roll is like trying to paint a masterpiece with crayons. You can make something decent, but you'll never reach the level of somebody using the proper tools. Directional air roll gives you access to precise movements, adjustments, and recoveries that are literally impossible with standard air roll. This isn't about preference, this is about evolution. The game has moved forward, and if you want to compete at any decent level, you need to evolve with it. Now, before you start spinning mindlessly in free play, you need to understand what's actually happening to your car. Most players fail because they never grasp these fundamentals. There are exactly 3 movements your car makes in the air. You have yaw, roll, and pitch. If those sound like airplane terms, that's because they are. Your Octane is basically a plane, and you need to learn to be the pilot. I know some of us are well beyond the days of high school geometry, and some of us are yet to get to high school geometry. I'm gonna keep this to the basics that will actually help you learn faster. Okay, let's do a little geometry lesson. In Rocket League, we've got 3 axes, right? Because it's a 3D space. X-axis, that's your left and right. Your Y-axis, that's up and down. And then you've got your Z-axis. Think of this as forward and backward. Understanding these axes is critical because your car's rotation involves 3 different types. You have pitch, which is rotating around the X-axis. This is done by pushing your left stick forward or back. You have yaw, that's spelled Y-A-W, and this is rotating around the Y-axis, which is done by pushing your left stick left or right. And then finally, you have roll. This is air roll, or rotating around the Z-axis, done by pressing air roll left or air roll right, or joystick air roll and pushing the direction. Let me break this down with an example mechanic that incorporates all of these adjustments, the breezy flick. Once you understand this move, you'll see why directional air roll gives you superpowers in ranked. So stick with me now, and Iram the video guy, help me with graphics here. In a breezy, we start with a simultaneous yaw right and air roll left. Then, about halfway through, we release air roll and do a solo yaw right. Finally, we finish with a backflip or pitch down to do a musty flick and complete the breezy. If this sounds complicated or overwhelming, by the end of this video, this will be second nature to you. Now that you understand the theory, let's get into the practice. Here's a truth bomb. Your bindings might be what's holding you back. If you didn't know, I learned this the hard way. I put drive on my joystick. Don't ask me why. It was a popular pro player named Rizzo. I don't want to talk about it. Long story short, I'm now at 4,000 hours and having to relearn my basic driving controls. So don't make the same mistake I did. Listen up and let's get your binds right. Before I tell you where to put air roll on your controller, you need to make one critical choice, and that's air roll left or air roll right. You should pick one as your main air roll for aerials. And contrary to what most tutorials will tell you, there is a right answer for you based on how your brain is wired. Here's how to find your natural tendency in 30 seconds. Go into free play and reset to the center kickoff. What I want you to do is flip forward for the kickoff. That's it. After you do this, pause. Tell me something. Which way did you naturally flip when going for it? If you tend to flip right, then air roll right will likely feel more intuitive. And if you tend to flip left, then air roll left will likely feel more intuitive. If you can't decide, just pick left. Most pros use left, and for some reason, everyone thinks left is more mechanical than right. I don't know what's up with that, but for the purposes of this video, we're gonna rock with left. Now, for the binding itself, the tried and true standard setup is putting air roll on L1 or LB along with power slide. And then you put air roll left on square or X and air roll right on circle or B. This works for most players and gives you a solid foundation. But about a year or two ago, there was a method that revolutionized the pro scene. If you don't know what I'm talking about the Zen method. And there was a debate about whether these air roll bindings are what made Zen the best in the world, at least in 2023 or 2024. Instead of putting air roll on the face buttons of his controller, he binded air roll to the triggers, which gave him access to something that no other pros had: pressure sensitive analog control. If that sounds like gibberish, just imagine having 100 different degrees of air roll input instead of just on or off. That's the kind of precision that makes some of these mind-blowing micro adjustments you see Zen do possible. If you're brand new to the game, this could be your secret weapon from day one. However, if you already have thousands of hours with different controls, my personal assessment is I don't think it's game changing. Yes, the advantage is real, but so is the painful relearning process. Is it worth it? Probably not. Only you can decide. Now let's talk about one final arrow question. One arrow versus two. The most mechanical players in the world use both arrow left and arrow right. This gives them complete 360-degree control in the air, and it makes them quick to the ball on both the left wall and the right wall, which does give you marginal gains if you know how to use both from both walls. Practically speaking, this advantage really only comes out when we look at precise mechanics like flip resets that require your car to be rolled a certain way. Apart from flip resets, you can shoot with arrow left or arrow right. That doesn't really matter. To help you decide whether this change is worth it at your rank, let me put this in perspective. As you now know, at our company, we have standard practices. And one of these standard practices is we don't recommend a second air roll until a player is approaching the 10,000 hour mark. Yes, you heard me right, not 1,000, 10,000 hours. So for 99.9% of you watching, focus on mastering one directional air roll. This alone will take you hundreds, if not thousands of hours to truly master. So you should just get ridiculously good with one to start out. And only then should you think about learning the second.
I would say find one and keep your normal air roll. I would consider a mistake where people get rid of their normal air roll and put on, right and left and try to get at both. I think that's a mistake.
Now, this doesn't mean you can't bind both air rolls from the start. I think there's totally benefit to doing that. But when it comes to practicing, practice one air roll, get it mastered, then move on to the next. Okay, now that we have our air roll bindings set up, let's focus on the 3 key reference positions that will serve as the foundation for everything air roll we're gonna learn today. To crack the code on air roll when it comes to ranked purposes and winning your games, there are exactly 3 key reference positions that you need to understand. Number 1, the grounded position is simple. Car wheels down like you're driving normally. This is your starting point on the ground before any jump or aerial. It's worth noting that these reference positions apply whether you're in the air or on the ground, so you can be in the grounded state in the air. That sounds confusing, but it'll make sense in a second. Number 2, the flying position. This is when your car is perfectly vertical in the air, nose pointed to the sky. This is the ideal reference position for learning air roll mechanics because it's the cleanest starting point for understanding the animations. That's why I taught this position to you in our 8 corners method. Finally, number 3, the neutral position. This is when your car is in the air, but slightly tilted forward, like you just jumped and tilted back a bit. This is the most common position you'll find yourself in ranked. Now, I'll explain why 67.5 degrees is this magic number later, but the main thing that you need to remember is that the neutral position is not perfectly straight up when flying, it's got a slight tilt forward. These 3 reference points are critical because they're the starting positions for all the foundational movements that I'll be teaching you later on. Once you get to a couple thousand hours, you'll probably venture away from these adjustments, but mastering air roll from each of these will give you control in 90% of game situations. That's why these reference positions are foundational. By the way, if you want to get more help from me and my team one-on-one, drop me a DM on Discord with the keyword ARL. My team and I would love to help you save time learning air roll and help you rank up even faster like Chaotic did. I'll have my Discord first link below. That's keyword ARL to work with my team one-on-one, and let's do it. Step 2, tornado spinning. Why is tornado spin the foundation of air roll?
Because it's where air rolling is most efficient and flexible from. When you're in a neutral position, you're able to do anything from one input. You've essentially made the whole game very easy for yourself. A lot of people make a big mistake. They move their analog stick all around and just try to fly through rings. But when you're making a consistent input every time, you've essentially created consistency in your habit from the way you've learned it, and then you're just automatically better and more consistent as time goes on. You've kind of given yourself a higher floor.
Let's address the elephant in the room. The reason most players struggle with air roll is because they're told it's just a feel thing. Just go into rings maps and you'll eventually get it. As we've established, that is terrible advice given by people who don't know how to teach or who are lazy or both. Not only is this approach a waste of time at best, at worst, it creates bad habits and randomness in your gameplay. Without foundation, you lack a performance floor, causing you to be inconsistent in ranked situations. When you don't understand tornado spins, you'll be peaking one day, then looking like a fish out of water the next, and you actually won't know why your car is moving one way or the other. So let's get into it. Pull out your controller, and I want you to think of this device, or if you're KBM, this whole guide will work for you too. I want you to think of this joystick as your piano key, and when combined with arrow left, you have 8 keys, and when combined with arrow right, you have 8 more keys. So I've given you the 16 keys to play air roll like you would play any musical instrument, and all these animations are in the air roll cheat sheet. But imagine right now if I just dropped you and said, thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe so we can get to 1 million subs. That would be the equivalent of telling somebody who wants to learn piano, here are the piano keys, just smack them until you can play like Mozart. Absurd, right? Yet many pros claim that they learned this way because it's all they had at the time. And by no means am I discounting these pros, but what I'm saying is if you're not a child prodigy, probably not the best way to learn. You need structure and a foundation. So what is the so-called piano key you're gonna play the most in ranked? Answer, it's tornado spins. The tornado spin isn't just some flashy move. It's the absolute core of directional air roll mastery. If you've been trying to learn air roll without understanding tornado spins, that's like trying to learn calculus without knowing addition. Definition time. What is a tornado spin? A tornado spin is the most popular of the 16 adjustments, and it's the only one with a name. You can do a tornado spin 2 ways, using either arrow left or arrow right. For arrow left users, hold arrow left and push your joystick to the right. For arrow right users, hold arrow right and push your joystick to the left. Here's where most players struggle. They try to use directional air roll like normal air roll, fighting against the natural rotation instead of using it to their advantage. So let's look at how tornado spins behave from each of our 3 key reference positions so you can learn how to use tornadoes, not get lost in them. Let's start with the grounded state. Recall, this is when you're flat, like you're driving on the ground, wheels down, and you jump into the air. This is the starting point for most aerials. From this position, executing a tornado spin will immediately lift your nose upward. This is why it's so powerful for gaining height quickly at takeoff. Here's why this works from a technical perspective. When you hold arrow left, your joystick inputs are essentially reflected over a line y equals -x in input space. This means pushing right, which would normally be yaw right, becomes a diagonal upward movement, giving you about 45 degrees of vertical lift while simultaneously spinning. If this is confusing, don't worry, it won't be on the test. But here is a critical warning. Be careful about holding air roll while pressing jump in the air. If you hold arrow left and press jump at the same time, the game interprets this as a left dodge, causing you to barrel roll. The same happens with air roll right. You'll barrel roll right if you're holding it while you flip. This is a super common beginner mistake, so if you see it happen, that's why. Here's a quick exercise for you. I want you to do a tornado spin, but time it so that way you let go of the tornado halfway through. In other words, we're going to release our joystick at the apex height of the spin. This comes 180 degrees or halfway through. I want you to get this timing down to muscle memory because this is what we call a partial spin. You're releasing your joystick before you return back to the starting position. Now, let's see what happens when we tornado spin from the flying position. Recall, this is the state when the car is perfectly vertical, nose pointed straight up. From this position, if we execute the same tornado spin input, something completely different happens. Recall from the 8 corners demonstration at the start, instead of lifting our nose further up, which isn't possible since we're already vertical, our car begins to tilt backward. This is all gonna eventually make sense, but it's not super intuitive the first time you see it. This position-dependent behavior means the same input can produce entirely different results depending on your starting position. It can be confusing, but once you understand this pattern, it becomes predictable and controllable. That's why I made you learn the reference positions first in the video. Finally, let's examine what happens from the neutral position. Car slightly tilted forward at 67.5 degrees of lift. This is where you'll find yourself most often in actual gameplay, flying at a ball up in front of your car. From this position, something magical happens with the tornado spin. Your car now revolves perfectly around a vertical pull. Jokes aside, I want you to understand mathematically why 67.5 degrees is so special. Mathematically, this tilt aligns the combined vectors of roll, pitch, and yaw in such a way that your car's nose traces a perfect horizontal circle, like it's tethered to a pole and orbiting it. Think of this revolving action as your own custom-built brake and gas pedal in the air. When your car is backwards, relative to the direction you're traveling, boost to slow down. When your car is facing forwards, boost to speed up. It's that simple, but the results are game-changing.
For example, during the course of a tornado spin, you reach a full 360. Like if you do a full tornado spin, you face every point. If I wanted to slow down, when would I boost? When my nose is faced towards me, well, or behind me if you're thinking about it that way. When my nose is faced this way. So when I jump and I boost for something, let's not take that high aerial, for example, but you'd really want to slow down and have kind of your speed control when you want to catch the ball in the air. On this one, I'm going to be focusing on boosting when my nose is faced backwards. I'll let this one play. You'll notice that I do a burst of boost each time my nose gets faced backwards. Right here, here. So that gives me that slowdown in the air, because if I just aerial like this normal, I'll always shoot it.
This is the breakthrough moment where you should be seeing why air roll isn't just some flashy mechanic, it's actually giving you control that completely transforms your aerial game. The pros aren't air rolling to look cool, they're doing it because it gives them this level of precision. Let's practice doing tornadoes from neutral, the most common air roll adjustment from the most common flying position. Go in free play and tornado spin around the ball at midfield. Then try to pick a corner to boost at. I'll let Shock demonstrate.
What you can do is, okay, I want to pick a direction. I'm going to go to the left corner behind me. What I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start boosting when my nose is faced that way and let off the boost when it's faced other ways, right? So now, and I go there. Just on its own. I don't have to move my analog stick. So you just apply that to the air. Like it's what someone who uses this does in every air dribble. You pop the ball off the wall and you want to get back to the ball. I'm boosting when my nose is faced towards it, and I'm not boosting when it's faced away from it. And that's how you control your speed in the air, and also slightly direction.
Now, I already know what the advanced players are thinking. Luke, why are you only talking about tornado spins? What if my car is already backwards and I want to turn? I can't just wait for a full rotation to make adjustments. What if I want to turn left or right faster? My answer is you're 100% right. And this is exactly where my previous tutorials failed miserably. Eventually, you need to control from every position and orientation. But trying to learn every possible adjustment at once is exactly why 99% of players get stuck in air roll purgatory. The fastest path to mastery isn't trying to learn everything at once. It's mastering one step completely before adding complexity on top. I've tested this with hundreds of students and the results are undeniable. So once you get good at this free play drill, you can progress to Let's Rings or the Pillars map. So I'm in Pillars right now, guys. Tornado spins are awesome. Now the problem with tornadoes is you can't really aggressively change your speed. So you see here, I'm waiting to spin. I can't aggressively change my speed. So ultimately we're gonna get to the point in our air roll control where you're flying using tornadoes and then you realize I need to turn right fast or I'm gonna hit this wall. We do a different adjustment to do that. I need to turn right fast. So now I'm doing a turn right adjustment by using up and to the right, but that's the idea with tornadoes. Ideally, your tornado is kind of your baseline. You're getting your footing here. And then when you realize you need to turn, oh shit, I need to turn back this way. And I'm doing different adjustments here and we'll get to all these in a second. But to start, you can just practice with this tornado just to get this idea of like, okay, I boost when I want to go forward. And now if I want to turn around, I have to deliberately kind of wait till my nose is facing back and boost more when it's facing back. You can also do this drill with reverse tornado spins, aka cucks twists, cucksier twists, but they're less intuitive. Why? Because, well, with tornado spin, when I'm facing middle or I face forward and boost forward, I go there. If I cucksier twist, reverse tornado spin, actually have to get to reverse neutral and then start the cucks twist from here. Now it's less intuitive. When my car is upside down facing forward, that's when boost propels me forward. So for that reason, we start with tornado spins because they're more common when you're taking off from the wall. They're more common when you're taking off from the ground. And frankly, while in flight, from neutral, they're more intuitive. Now that doesn't mean reverse tornado spins are not useful, but for all these reasons, tornado spins are more intuitive. And that's why we start with these as beginner players. And honestly, even you use these more commonly. You're using these 90% of the time. Tornado spin is the favored mechanic, let's say. So hopefully that explanation makes sense. It's just more intuitive for aerials. Let's go back to the training. Coming back, Luke from the future here. So you can fly like this, where you're only tornadoing, and we're just boosting at the right times in order to go in the direction we want to go. And this will be slow, but it does get the idea across of how you control using tornadoes. Now, if you want to turn right, we're going to boost a little bit more to the right. Want to get to the left, we boost a little bit more to the left. Want to go up and to the right, we boost when our nose is facing up and right. Now, if you want to do half spins, you could do it basically flying like this. We just tornado spin until we get to the direction we want to go. So we're kind of half spinning right, left. We tornado spin to the direction we want to go to. Left, right, left, right. Tornado spin straight through here. So here we're tornado spinning like half spins through the whole map. Here we need to turn right heavy. So we're basically tornado spinning right heavy. So now here we're doing partials, but it's still only tornado spin, not using any other adjustment. Now, is this perfect? No, but you can turn pretty aggressively. You wouldn't want to only do this in ranked, but like as a beginner, if you only did this, you could get 50% of control down, adjusting continuously in a second, but that's kind of the idea of how you could go about training using partials. Pro tip, I highly recommend doing 25 or 50% speed training to start. If you want more precise drill instructions, pull up the cheat sheet to train, but I'm gonna go straight to the good stuff. Let's move on to step 3. Now that you understand the brake gas pedal concept, let's tackle the biggest air roll challenge, turning in midair. This is where 90% of players get completely lost, and I don't blame you. This is the part where most tutorials will tell you, just practice more, or it's all feel, which by now you know is absolute nonsense. Just like the other steps, there's a specific learnable process that will have you air rolling in weeks, not months. So let's revisit our initial 8 corners example. Recall from our 8 corners example that when we're in the flying position, nose pointing straight to the sky, when we push vertically up on our joystick to 12 o'clock and hold arrow left, where did we turn? We turned to the right. Okay. Also recall that in the flying position, nose pointing to the sky, pushing vertically down on your joystick around 6 o'clock while holding arrow left, that turned us to the left. So you might think to yourself, so I press up to go to the right, arrow left, and I press down to go left. That does follow the 90-degree clockwise thing you taught us. So is that it? While you're right in theory, practically that's not correct. You're right about the adjustments, but what you're forgetting is most of the time that we fly in ranked, we start in that neutral position. This is because when you fly, you're usually flying for a ball up and in front of you, not directly overhead or behind. So if you just use up and down on the joystick from this neutral position, you will kind of turn to the left and right, but your speed is going to run out of control because in both of those animations from neutral, your nose is pointing forwards the entire time. You're losing that brake gas pedal we'd normally get from tornado spin. In other words, if I were to put a ball on your car and tell you to air dribble using only the up and down adjustment, you'd quickly lose control of the ball. We need an adjustment that both slows us down and turns our car. Up and down are close, but we need to combine them with tornado spins. Let's work it backwards. Let's say you want your car to go back and to the left from the normal flying position while holding arrow left. In other words, what joystick direction, when rotated 90 degrees clockwise, becomes down left? Answer, diagonal down right. If you rotate this 90 degrees, it becomes down left. Let's use the same logic for the other side. What if you want your car to go down and right with arrow left? What position, when rotated 90 degrees clockwise, would find that? The answer, diagonal upright, turns us down right, aka back right, when using arrow left. Here's a quick recap table for you. If we want to go back into the left, the joystick input is diagonal down right. If we want to go diagonal down right, the joystick input is diagonal up right. Intuitively, this should follow from the 8 corners demo earlier, and if it doesn't, just study the cheat sheet for a little bit. Once you understand these 3 adjustments, tornado spin, up and to the right and down and to the right for air roll left, air roll becomes a system. And remember, this isn't random. It's a predictable pattern that top players exploit constantly.
But in terms of a turning motion, yeah, when you want to turn right, you would go up and right as helpers in that way. Like if I'm like trying to avoid the wall over here, right? I'm up here, I'm tornado spinning, yeah, I'd go like up and right once my nose gets faced that way, but it's still predicated on where your nose is faced. Because if I go up and right and I'm faced left, I still go left. You need to be watching first, where's my nose faced? Second, make sure I'm boosting when I want to turn that way. And then third, if I need more of a turn, I add in that extra movement, which we just outlined.
Navigate rings using only 3 adjustments: tornado spin normal, tornado spin left, and tornado spin right. These will vary on arrow left and arrow right. On arrow left, this is the right side of your joystick, and on arrow right, this is the left side of your joystick. Basically, you tornado spin normally to do minor turns, and when you need to do a major turn, you wait till you get to neutral and then activate the proper joystick adjustment, up and right or down and right to turn. What you don't want to do to turn left is to hold down this adjustment the whole way and keep boosting. It's more intuitive when I'm turning left here to be in the neutral position, so that slight tilt forward. I'm going to pull down and to the right until I like the position of my car, and then I'm going to keep spinning and press air roll down and to the right again to recenter myself. Let me do that on slow-mo. I'm doing half the spin to get my car in the turn left position. Boom, I'm in the turn left position. I press down and to the right again to get my car back to center. Let's say I want to turn right now. I'm going to go up and to the right to get my car in the turn right position. Great, I'm in the turn right position. Now when I'm done with it, I push up and to the right again. And this is kind of the idea with doing these turns in the same way that you would tornado around the center. It's the same idea here. So I want to turn right. I press up and to the right and hold arrow left to put my car in the turn right position. Now I'm turning right. And when I'm done, I press up and to the right again, and now I'm recentered, flying back at my target. I want to turn left. I press down into the right and arrow left to roll my car over. Now I'm turning left, turning left, turning left. Okay, I want to recenter. Press down and to the right again. Once you get good at making one turn at a time, you can try to add multiple turns back to back or even continuous spin throughout. Remember, slow-mo is your best friend. And I know we're only at step 3, but that's it. Tornado controls speed, the other 2 control left, right. With just these 3 adjustments, you'll already be more controlled than 80% of players. Zooming out for a second, the reason I'm teaching you this way is because I want you to practice a certain way. We're building the connections in our brain to these adjustments one at a time. So rather than trying to learn all 8 corners at once and just swinging our joystick around in rings, I can't believe people actually tell you to do that. You can follow this approach and actually understand what's happening to your car while you spin. This guarantees you'll master these moves, even if you're not a fast learner and you can't self-teach everything. But Luke, I'm still waiting for my car to rotate around in order to turn. This is too slow. Technically, yes, you're right. This isn't as fast as the pros turn. But this is still a really fast way to move around in the air compared to normal air roll or flying without air roll at all. Practically, you could use only the tornado half of your joystick and easily get SSL. That being said, at the top ranks, when we get into super advanced mechanics like precise musties, breezies, flip resets, there are certainly in-game positions where you're gonna wanna learn the other kind of 5 adjustments on the joystick. For example, let's say our car is upside down, but in the neutral position, so that, 67.5 degree tilt. And let's say we want to slow down or lift our hood up into the air and fly higher. Well, if you use a tornado spin from upside down neutral, you would fly to the ground. You have to wait until your car gets back to neutral but air rolled over in order to then lift your nose. This is minorly inconvenient. Well, there actually is a way to lift your hood from the upside down neutral position. Think about it. If tornado spin puts your hood 45 degrees down to the ground from here, what would lift it up? A reverse tornado spin. If you add in reverse tornado spins, you're now at like 95% mastery of air roll. These 3 tornado spins reign supreme, and when combined with reverse, you could have the mechanics of somebody like Shock, who was the North American MVP in Season 9 and still a 2000 MMR plus ranked 2v2 player. But to backtrack for a second, when we talk about air dribbling and flying in the air and making controlled touches in Diamond and Champ and even Grand Champ and SSL, these 3 tornado adjustments still reign supreme. And you can develop absolutely insane mechanics with just these 3 aerial adjustments alone. For sake of completion, I'm going to explain something here that you don't have to memorize. But high rank players, you'll probably appreciate this. The left side adjustments and reverse tornado spins allow you to get the same directional changes as you would with tornado spins, but instead of slowing down while midair, these will speed you up when done from the neutral position. So for advanced mechanics like flip resets, the reverse tornado can be beneficial. But practically, reverse tornado spins are much less intuitive for normal flying. Because your car rotates around the y-axis, but your wheels will face you in order to boost forward, it's confusing.
With the reverse is that it kind of pushes your momentum towards where your nose is faced already. But you know, with regular tornado spin, your car turns inwards at itself. So it doesn't push you in a direction. What I'm doing here in game right now, like I'm doing the difference, like when I just tornado spin here, you know, and my momentum starts and I get into neutral position and I tornado spin, I don't go anywhere. Now, if you're pointed straight up, you do go backwards, like you mentioned earlier. But from neutral position, you're not pointing straight upwards. You're a little bit below it.
However, there are situations like ceiling shots, for example, where if you're falling off the ceiling and you're starting in the upside down grounded position, guess what's going to lift you up? Not a tornado spin, a reverse tornado spin. This is cool, but once again, my point is the reverse tornado spin is much less practical. Where are we more commonly taking off from? If you're Zen, maybe ceiling, but the rest of us, we fly from the ground. If you were a true completionist, you could learn all the drills I've mentioned earlier, but with reverse tornado spins instead. So for example, if we're in the neutral position and we use a reverse tornado spin, we're gonna go up and right instead of back and right. And then you could also learn the upside down neutral position next. So if you're in the upside down neutral position, down left while holding arrow left, for example, that won't speed you up and left relative to how you're looking at the car. It'll actually slow you down back and right. Whatever you decide to learn and however deep you want to go, the key insight is this. You're not making random adjustments hoping for results. You're using specific inputs at specific car positions to create predictable changes in your movement. This is how you're going to learn air roll in weeks, not months. Step 4, let's talk about the last 2 concepts that will transform your air roll game. We've got partial spins and chaining adjustments. When you hold a tornado spin for a full 360-degree rotation, your car ends up back in the same position it started. That's useful in some cases, like from neutral, but in other flying positions, you rarely want to complete full spins. So if you want to unlock the last 5 to 10% of air roll control, you need to learn how to chain your adjustments. Why? Because in-game situations are messy. If you ever watch pros play, you'll notice they're flicking their joystick around. That's because they're chaining. Let's break down why this works and how you can start doing it. Example, let's say you're falling from the ceiling and you want to return to normal flying posture, nose up. Well, level 1 with no air roll would just be push your joystick up, or in other words, pitch up. Simple. But let's do level 2. Let's say you have to continue a spin, like in an air dribble or flip reset setup, where you're holding air roll. What would you do if you were falling from the ceiling and you had to hold air roll while climbing back up? I'll give you 3 seconds to think. Answer, chain a reverse tornado spin and a regular tornado spin. In other words, we start with a reverse tornado spin, aka air roll left plus stick left, and we do that for half a spin, a partial. Then we switch to normal tornado spin, aka air roll left plus stick into the right. That completes the rotation. Boom, we just did a 90-degree lift, and our nose is back up, flying to the ceiling. This is way faster than waiting for a full tornado spin to turn. But wait, Luke, isn't just pressing up on my joystick faster? Yes, in this exact case, pressing up might seem faster, and it would be quicker than chaining these air roll adjustments. But in 3D flight, air roll is king. It lets you change direction instantly while controlling pitch, yaw, and air roll at the same time. A bonus of holding down air roll while you fly is not just for flashiness and clips. Holding air roll actually stabilizes your movement through the air. Here's why. Air roll locks your car into a rotational axis. This creates centripetal force, meaning your car is rotating around a consistent point. Because of the centripetal force, you don't get a weird delay or floaty drift when you normally just try to turn left and right in midair. Seriously, go to free play and try to just fly left and right midair, switching directions. You'll notice that little lag that's happening because we're not air rolling. This is the same reason that air roll actually reduces our knockback. Think of it like this. Air roll anchors you in rotation, so you're not free floating and you're more resistant to impact. It's the same reason a football flies faster when it's spinning. The change in movement often happens in the first half of a spin. After 180, your car starts returning to its original position. So while it's fine to hold for 90 degrees or 180 degrees or even 270 for certain movements, remember, a full 360 spin puts you right back where you started, which leads us to takeaway 2. Chaining adjustments equals faster positioning in 3D space. That's why advanced players hold air roll while flying. It lets them chain spins together, which is often the fastest way to get from A to B to C. One more example to cement this, and this example is a little more confusing than our 2D one. Let's say you're flying through a rings map and you want to make a harsh turn down and to the right. What would you do? Well, I'm not going to get into the technical behind this. I'm just going to give you the answer. The answer is chaining turns. You're going to go upright, down right, upright, down right. Each of these for 180. So it's upright 180, down right 180, upright 180, down right 180. Repeat. This chaining aggressively rotates your car down and right in a controlled arc. Because our car's position in space flips relatively every 180 degrees, because that's how long it takes to air roll, chaining up and right and down right gets us the most turn and makes sure our turn is never working against us. Hopefully that helps. If not, forget what I just said. Just remember this. Most players make the mistake of not chaining enough, but actually chaining too much. First, you want to practice clean, consistent single inputs from neutral. Then start testing them from other orientations, like upside down or sideways. Finally, after you understand single adjustments from all sorts of different positions, then you can start doing partials, and last but not least, chaining partials, which is like kind of the most advanced here. So when pros say it's just a feel thing, now you know what they really mean to say is there are roughly 16 types of spins I can do with air roll left and right. I have practiced them all, and now my hands just know. I see my car in a certain way, and I go, oh, air roll left plus upright gets me back to neutral from here. And I've done that along with 1,000 other combinations over the last 10,000 hours I've played the game. Now, I made this video to give you the system I wish I had. Where my mechanics may lack, my explanations can hopefully make up. Final tips for learning air roll faster. Use slow-mo, 25 or 50% speed to start. Train in rings maps or pillars for obstacle focus practice. I also have bonus drills like the slalom in my cheat sheet. Focus first on tornado spins and one direction. Then graduate to tornado spins and both directions. Use clear goals in free play. So fly toward the corner wall and turn if you can't do any of the stuff before. And don't just randomly wiggle your stick around. You can do that once you're advanced, but beginners and even intermediates use specific inputs from specific car positions to get specific results. And think about it when you do it. Once you've mastered the basics, it's time to understand what separates good players from great ones. The 4 pillars of air roll mastery are what make players like Zen, Joyo, and Drawley look like they're playing a different game. First is developing a feedback loop between your eyes and hands. This isn't some abstract concept, it's a neurological process that I'll show you how to accelerate. Every time you make an adjustment while air rolling, your brain is processing visual information and creating a response. So it's absolutely critical to keep your eyes focused on one specific part of your car. That way you can remember that this adjustment from this position is what fixed me. Or let's say you're flying in rings and you have a blackout moment where you don't know what to do. If you fall out of the sky, you want to remember, what position did I fall out of the sky in? And then you're going to test different adjustments from that position to keep you up. Having that consistent reference point where you're failing and thinking about what's happening before you crash, that helps your brain develop a feedback loop way faster. Second is deliberate practice, not mindless repetition. This means actively pausing after you fail a run and identifying exactly what went wrong or what turn you messed up on. This also means progressive challenges that push you beyond your comfort zone. So once you get tornado spins, keep building on them. Third, and this is something almost no one talks about, sleep. Your brain doesn't just learn while you're playing the game, the real magic happens when you sleep. Sleep is when your brain goes through all of the consolidation process, literally replaying these movements and strengthening the neural pathways. So if you practice for an hour before bed, your brain is going to continue processing those movements while you sleep. This is why consistent practice over time beats marathon sessions. You need those sleep cycles to lock in what you've learned. Fourth is maintaining a growth mindset and being patient with the process. Progress isn't linear. You'll have breakthrough days followed by days where nothing seems to work. This is normal and part of how your brain learns complex skills. These 4 pillars are what have helped me learn, and when I follow them, I notice I progress 3 times as fast as when I don't. Common mistakes. Let me save you hundreds of hours of frustration by exposing the 5 mistakes that keep most players stuck in air roll purgatory. I've watched thousands of players make these exact mistakes, me included, and by simply steering clear of these things, you'll already be ahead of most players when they go to learn. You need to be careful of 2 specific problems here. 1, over tornado spinning. This means facing your car in different directions where boost starts to work against you. If you're boosting all throughout a tornado spin, you're likely wasting. There's over tornado spinning, and then 2 is overspinning in general, which if you're not used to, can cause you to get weak touches with parts of your car that you didn't intend to use. Let me give you an example. When I'm using the tornado spin, I'm using a tornado to find the line. And then when I find my line, I stick to it. I don't keep tornado spinning after I've got that direct line to the ball. Second is neglecting basic car control. If you can't fly straight without air roll, adding rotation will only make things worse. So before diving into directional, make sure you can consistently hit basic aerials. Fly right side up, fly upside down, and fly sideways, both left and right, and make sure you can still hit the ball. If you don't have this foundation, you won't be able to swim your way back to the neutral position when things go wrong. You'll just be tumbling through the air. The third biggest pitfall is random practice with no structure. This is why most players plateau in general. They jump into the same maps, doing the same spins, doing the same challenges they're already good at. If you want to get better in Rocket League, you need to isolate your weaknesses. In the context of air roll, this means isolating the situations in which you struggle. So you want to force yourself into positions you don't understand. You want to be crashing out of an air roll map every level or 2. If every level is easy, then the map isn't challenging enough for you. Fourth, the patience problem. Expecting results too quickly leads to frustration and giving up before you get to your goal. Air roll mastery follows a step curve. Progress seems slow at first, then jumps, then stalls, then jumps. Point is, give yourself at least a few weeks of consistent practice before judging your progress. Fifth, and perhaps the biggest mistake of all, rushing to add the ball too soon. The ball should not be incorporated for weeks with air roll control. You need to focus on car mastery. Adding the ball prematurely forces you to divide your attention between car control and ball control before you've mastered either. This can lead to frustration and bad habits that are hard to break later. Plus, using the ball at first is just discouraging. Trust me, you need tens, if not hundreds of hours before adding the ball. Bonus, the mental approach. The honest truth is that mastering air roll isn't just about mechanics. It's also about mindset. The players who progress rapidly aren't always just the most talented. They're usually the ones who approach practice differently. When it comes to air roll, failure is a good thing. Every time you fail, your brain is strengthening neural connections. These failures or blackout moments aren't wasted time, they're stepping stones. The most successful students in my coaching memberships all share these 3 mental traits. First, they embrace the discomfort of learning instead of avoiding it. When they feel that confusion or frustration during practice, they recognize it as a sign of growth. As a result, they lean into failure and they learn way faster. Number 2, our best students celebrate small victories. Instead of focusing on what you can't do, think to yourself, did you maintain a tornado spin for 3 seconds longer than you did yesterday? That's progress. Did you hit the ball while air rolling when you would have missed before? That's good. Did you get a reset even if you missed the shot? These are wins even if you aren't at pro level yet. Get addicted to the feeling of yourself making progress, not comparing yourself to others. Third and finally, the best players build consistent practice habits instead of marathon 8-long sessions followed by burnout and then taking week-long breaks from the game. Even 1 or 2 hours with breaks is way better than 5 hours nonstop followed by nothing the rest of the week. Your brain needs consistent exposure, so small sessions with sleep in between are crucial. Remember, the players who master air roll aren't necessarily more talented. They're more persistent, more strategic, and more positive in their approach to learning. Adopt this mindset, follow the system I've outlined, and I promise you, you will break through barriers you thought were permanent. I want to make sure you understand where this knowledge comes from, because it wasn't just me who figured all this out. So before we wrap up, I have to give credit. What I taught you today was developed in massive part thanks to my team. Thank you to my team of pros, including Shock and Torment. Shock particularly was foundational for me making this video because if he didn't teach me how Tornado Spin worked, I wouldn't have been able to connect the rest of the dots with this video. Also, a big thanks to my editors, especially Zerosi, who did all the Cinema 4D and the custom animations you see on the cheat sheet and that you've seen across the video, and Iram, who's done all the title cards and the cool background blue graphics and literally cutting this voiceover with me and editing it. Editing team, you guys do so much. On this project alone, have invested over 100 hours. So Iram, Zerosi, links in description. Thank you. And hopefully I didn't miss anybody, but last shout out, my ops team, Sarah Jacob, who helped develop the cheat sheet. You can download below. This was truly a team effort, and I couldn't have created this guide without all of their contributions and expertise. And I definitely would have quit if I was by myself, because this was long. I mean, I've been on camera for 3 hours just recording this voiceover. Conclusion, I have to not forget. Remember that breezy flick we broke down at the beginning. I made a promise. I think you're gonna love this. So in a breezy flick, you start with a tornado spin by holding arrow left and pushing right on your joystick. This creates that simultaneous yaw and roll movement that begins the setup. In other words, from the grounded position, this tornado spin immediately lifts your nose up. You know this earlier, and it can help you get your car in the perfect position to start a flick. Here's where the second step comes in. You don't want to complete a full tornado. Instead, you want to release at precisely 180 degrees. We're going to continue yawing right from here, and this is going to put our car in the perfect position for a musty. Finally, you do a backflip, and boom, that's the pitch, that's the breezy in the net. Finally, what probably has seemed like a complex mechanic, hopefully feels within reach. TLDR, if I have one impact in the Rocket League community, I want it to be this: air roll is not a feel thing. If you want more personalized guidance on your air roll journey, we can guide you through air roll training one-on-one, and you can work one-on-one in classes. You can work one-on-one with me. You can work one-on-one with the pros you saw in this video. You can come to our classes and all our live events. It's all at thegrandchampbootcamp.com. Just join our free Discord, open a ticket to apply, and somebody on our team will get back to you. For now, go train and leave me a comment letting me know how long it takes you to learn air roll. I would love if you guys came back to this video over the course of months. That would be so cool. And if you post your progress, I will definitely heart it and read the comments. I will see you in the next one. Holy sh! This was long. Holy sh! Dude. Holy man. Is it even light out anymore? Oh! The sun. It's still bright out. Still light out a little bit. Iram, blur the background because geo trackers are gonna be sus as figure out where I live. But damn, what a video. Peace.